Happy Friday, fellow members of the Survey Corps. Junsui Kinyobi! Welcome to another episode. This is your host, the Michigan Sensei. Today, we are going to go over the pitfalls of teaching English conversation in Japan, or what is also called eikaiwa. So first, before we go into the cons or pitfalls of teaching English in Japan, you need a little background. So your sensei is going to give that to you. So, first, students' class sizes can vary. I once taught 6 kids in a very small classroom. And in that classroom, the parents were there too. So we were playing something like Ring Around the Rosie or something. And I can remember, yes, we all fell down into a pile when we tried to sit down. So it was quite an amazing sight to be in that classroom. And then to top it off, we were playing a game with balls. And because it was so hot in there, we had the windows open. So what one of the kids did is accidentally threw that ball out the window. And so we thought, okay, bye-bye ball. But then a kid and his mom brought back that ball at the end of the class. So the ball found its way home. Second, you could end up teaching 8 classes a day. And I did that for like 3 years, I would say, when I lived in Osaka. 8 classes a day. The upshot, they were all McDonald's-sized class lessons, so it was pretty easy just to standardize everything and rinse and repeat and just kind of go on autopilot after a while. You could improvise with your own personality to jazz it up, and that's what I did, so it was a lot of fun. Thirdly, student levels, even within a class 18 and up, can vary. So you could have somebody who's totally beginner. And usually for most Japanese nowadays, that just means they went through 6 years of schooling, but haven't really practiced speaking it. So they can read the alphabet, they can put most words together, they just don't know how to speak it very well. So you can put somebody who is that level in with somebody who's can answer past, present, and future. So how did that make you feel? How are you today? What will you be doing tomorrow? And sometimes up to intermediate with people who can, well, I have been to Australia 3 times. So you can have a mix of those levels, and trying to plan for those lessons can be very daunting, to say the least. Fourthly, most eikaiwa or English conversation schools provide textbooks for you to use, but little training. My first teaching gig in Japan, I went out to a place called Mie Prefecture, a rural prefecture, in which I strolled around the first morning I was there, and man, it was heaven back in 1994. But I only got 3 days of training, and then they threw me into a classroom with, you guessed it, those little lovable kiddies, who are now about in their mid-30s, so, the current millennials. So that's who I taught back in 94. But I made it through. Fifthly, some may expect you to prep at home or arrive early or to stay late to prep for lessons. And guess what? That's unpaid prep time. If you value staying in Japan, then you are going to do that, at least for the duration of your contract. I think that might be one reason why teachers find expat only bars and then drink a lot, to just, commiserate, to vent, and, a little bubbly goes a long way. So where are we? One, ichi, ni, san, shi, go, roku. Sixthly, the age range can vary. So I have taught anywhere from age 2 to 80. Now, of course, the 2-year-old and the 80-year-old are not going to be in the classroom unless one is the grandmother and the other is the grandchild. But I taught one day, I had a 2-year-old in the classroom, which was a lot of fun. That's just basically playing in English. And so that can actually be easier than the adult lessons because you can say, okay, yeah, see you next time. But I'm also up to 80. Now, the 80-year-old did have a very good grasp of English. But when you're going from head, shoulders, knees and toes to, well, what do you think about open heart surgery? That can happen to you in one day. It has happened to me. So, and another one, depending on the situation, if you're not a person who is into the big city life or the suburban life and would like to experience real rugged rural Japan, then these eikaiwa are usually located in the burbs or cities near the bigger population centers. So to kind of give you an overview of the big chains in eikaiwa, they are Berlitz, GABA, Eon for adults or Amity for children, Nova, ECC, Kokojuku. I have taught at both Nova and Amity when I lived in Japan. So, kind of to embellish on what we were going about, well, you know how I said before that you could be teaching eight classes a day, and the variation in age groups and the variation of levels in class, the school can be extremely busy, so which means you may have little downtime between lessons. Most of the time when I was teaching in eikaiwa, my first job, I had no time in between lessons unless somebody canceled or something. At least at Nova, I had 10 minutes in between, but again, you're doing prep. And so if it's a fairly easy class to prep for, then you just chit-chat with the rest of the teachers until the bell rings. Otherwise, it can be a frantic dash to, okay, what do I do? What do I do? What props should I use? Oh no, this person's done this lesson 3 or 4 times, and they still haven't gotten it. They haven't gotten the point across. So in that situation, it's like, okay, just you hope for the best. And usually at an eikaiwa, you're not going to be working on your own. You are going to be working with other teachers. So which means you may have some darn right down uncooperative coworkers. So for example, the other teacher may not vacate the room you have been assigned to. And that happened to me at one eikaiwa. I had a 2-year-old I had to teach. And I think because of the earthquake, she was extremely traumatized by it. So for me to prepare for that class, I would usually have to take down a table and remove the chairs so that you had a free open floor plan for the 2-year-old to run around. And so when a teacher would not vacate the class because they had their own thing going, that forced me into Superman mode and the model and the role of being Superman. And so then I would have to do a mad dash to destroy that table, clear those chairs, so that adorable little girl could run to her heart's content, letting the English flow into her ears, filling her with happy memories later on of her childhood. Yeah. It was a tough job, but I had to do it. Then to kind of go on with that point, some eikaiwas may not pay you on time if they are having financial trouble. Now, this has never happened to me, but I would read in publications like the Kansai Timeout, and if you do a Google search, any kind of internet search, heck, even if you look on YouTube, you can probably find somebody who's talked about not being paid because their English conversation school had trouble, financial trouble, not getting the mula, the dinheiro, or as I like to say now in Portuguese, dinheiro, from the students. If you're more interested on the teaching role, then this next point may turn you off and you may say, no thanks. So some schools will push sales. They will push you to try to get the student to sign up for more classes. And if your focus is focused on teaching and thinking, well, the soft sell should be how I teach, you do not want to be at the end of the lesson trying to ramrod them into taking more lessons. For me, that would be a turn off as a teacher. Not because I would not mind selling. Now, at Nova, they would have us do what were called demo lessons. And so those were periods carved out so that, we could just focus on that. And those were usually like 20 minutes. And then we would go back to the break room and then write a report or something about it. So that was fine. I had no problem with that because that's a prospective student. But if it's a student who's already signed up, I don't want to be pressing that at the end of the class. I don't want to have an otherwise great lesson ruined by a sales pitch, especially coming from me. Then this next point probably should not be so surprising to you. Edutainment. So education plus entertainment. When I heard this 30 years ago, I could not wrap my head around it. It almost exploded because I just was so naive and so taken in that I was thinking, who could not like education? Who could not like learning? Well, advance forward 30 years and with TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube, well, we like a lot of things that give us that endorphin rush and that dopamine hit. That's what you're going to be doing in eikaiwa too. So, and I would say sometimes, depending on the demographic, depending on the age group, there's going to be more emphasis on entertainment than on education. So, those are some of the pitfalls that you may encounter while teaching English conversation at an eikaiwa in Japan. If you're still feeling intrepid and adventurous and thinking, Michigan Sensei, I want to take down the titan of English conversation in Japan and get beyond the walls of Parody Island, Walshina, and explore the big wide world out there. Then, in a future video, I will give you all the positives, all the things that will motivate you and say, I don't think I ever want to leave the land of the rising sun. I want to create my own anime epic here. Thank you very much for hanging around to this point, and you have a great evening. Take care. Bye.